Opening the center immediately claims space and prepares piece development, a classic assertion of central influence. Developing the knight to f6 immediately challenges white's central pawn and prepares for queenside expansion, setting up a flexible defensive structure. Establishing a central pawn presence, white immediately stakes a claim and prepares for potential pawn advances. Solidifying the center and preparing for piece development, this creates a flexible pawn structure for black. Reinforcing the center's central square, nc3 offers immediate piece development and prepares for further pawn advances, subtly increasing white's territorial ambitions. Developing the bishop to a more active diagonal, it immediately challenges the knight and influences the center. Solidifying the center and preparing development, this allows for queenside expansion. Central pawn thrust immediately contesting white's space. Disrupting black's bishop and gaining space, this subtly pressures their pawn structure. Conceding the bishop pair, black opts to disrupt white's pawn structure, creating immediate imbalances. Doubling pawns concedes the bishop pair, yet opens the b-file for rapid queen or rook deployment. Unlocking central tension, black aims to shatter white's pawn chain and gain queenside initiative. Opening the center creates immediate dynamic possibilities for both sides. Opening the center this way, black sacrifices pawn structure for active pieces and a liberated pawn majority. Centering the bishop prepares for a potential kingside pawn storm, while developing a piece toward the opponent's central structure. Securing the king's sanctuary amid the developing central storm, black prioritizes safety and prepares for the inevitable pawn struggles ahead. Developing the knight to this square sets up potential pawn breaks and unifies pieces for central control. Preparing to unpin that bishop and unleash the queenside pawn majority creates a vital dynamic shift. Probing on the queenside, white aims to restrict black's queenside expansion and potentially create a passed pawn later. Developing the bishop to this outpost immediately pressures the queenside structure and prepares for a queenside pawn storm. Sacrificing the bishop opens the a-file for potential queenside pressure, but it gives black a clear passed pawn advantage on the queenside. Reclaiming the pawn with the knight re-establishes material balance, but leaves the queen's flank structure compromised, offering white active counterplay. Unifying the bishop pair for increased central influence and attacking potential. Reuniting the rooks on the open files now that the bishop pair is gone. Elevating the queen to orchestrate a central clamp and eye the kingside. Boldly seizing central space, black's pawn push disrupts white's queenside structure and creates a fascinating dynamic. Unifying the queen and pawns under the watchful eye of the bishop begins a delicate dance to counter black's encroaching queenside pressure. Liberating the queen for central action, this move aims to untangle black's pieces and challenge white's queenside space advantage. Securing the king initiates a strategic repositioning of pieces, aiming to consolidate white's central influence before engaging further. Retreating the knight to b8 seems passive. Strengthening the queenside pawn structure was a more ambitious plan. Reinforcing the e-file with the rook aims to gain central space and potentially pressure black's kingside. Unleashing the knight to its natural square, preparing for central expansion and potentially a kingside sortie. Positioning the knight on g3 prepares for eventual kingside expansion or a strategic repositioning towards the center, enhancing central control indirectly. This knight's journey to the rim aims to disrupt white's central pawn structure and gain better squares. Solidifying the kingside pawn structure combats black's queenside pressure. Unleashing the knight's power to that advanced outpost directly challenges white's queen and creates immediate tactical possibilities. Unleashing a central pawn thrust, white boldly challenges black's queenside foothold and seeks to disrupt their compact formation. Challenging the queenside pawn structure, black immediately invites a tactical skirmish, aiming to disrupt white's coordinated pieces and exploit the open diagonals. Cleverly repositioning the queen to avoid the knight's fork, while eyeing potential weaknesses on the queenside. A daring expansion, seeking queenside space, yet potentially exposing the queenside pawn's long-term. Unlocking white's queenside potential, this pawn thrust aims to disrupt black's compact setup and seize initiative. Unleashing a pawn storm, black aims to crack open the queenside and exploit the now exposed file, seeking counterplay against white's somewhat passive setup. Unleashing the bishop here creates an imposing diagonal, threatening pawn breaks and controlling key squares. The rook's retreat to e6 solidifies the central pawn structure and prepares for a potential expansion on the queenside. Opening that kingside pawn structure for an attack, aiming to exploit the weakened king position. Sacrificing the rook opens lines for your pieces, but be wary of white's exposed king. White carves open the kingside, inviting tactical chaos and exploiting black's exposed monarch. Exploiting the weak queenside pawn structure, black boldly injects activity and aims to disrupt white's coordination. This rook sortie aims to disrupt black's pawn chain and exploit the open files now available to white's queenside. Recapturing the rook, black aims to solidify the queenside pawns and prepare for piece development. Initiating a pawn storm to break open lines around black's king. This maneuver aims to relocate the queen to a more active post, potentially eyeing the weakened queenside or offering better support for upcoming pawn advances. Securing the bishop's outpost, white reorients their queen for potential queenside pressure and a more active defense. Reclaiming central space and activating the rook along the third rank is a solidifying maneuver. Unleashing a desperate pawn thrust to pry open lines, white hopes to exploit the overextended black queenside before a counterattack materializes. Reclaiming the pawn, black ignites a tactical fireworks display and shifts the pressure back onto white's king. Unlocking the d-file for your rook offers dynamic attacking potential. Reclaiming the pawn opens a crucial diagonal for your queen, aiming to exploit white's exposed king. Unleashing the f-pawn creates immediate threats and cracks open the position. A desperate gambit to disrupt white's initiative, sacrificing material for tempo and potential mating threats. Securing the king from the active queen and potential skewers is paramount after that exchange. Reclaiming the initiative and probing for weaknesses, this move strategically forces white's queen to a less active square. Sensing the opportunity, white uncovers a powerful central attack, leveraging the open e-file to threaten the exposed black king. Awakening the rook on a8 now seeks to exploit the opened file, posing a fresh threat to white's king. Gaining a pawn is tempting, but this opens lines towards your king and creates a dangerous passed pawn for black. Unlocking the queenside pawn potential, a bold gambit to disrupt white's coordinated pieces and create new lines of attack. Sacrificing the queen here opens a critical diagonal, aiming to exploit black's exposed monarch and pending pawn advances. Black finally recaptures material, aiming to simplify and escape the bind created by white's central pawns and queen. Unleashing the knight to the central squares offers dynamic counterplay, aiming to disrupt black's defensive structure. Creating queenside space for counterplay, this pawn thrust aims to dislodge white's entrenched pieces. This exchange liberates the knight, aiming to exploit the weakened pawn structure and secure a queenside initiative. This recaptures the pawn, but offers white the chance to consolidate their material advantage with active piece play. Reclaiming central space is the immediate priority after that bold knight sortie. Embracing the d-file with this pawn push seeks to dismantle white's central grip and activate the queen further. Sacrificing on e6 opens a crucial diagonal for the queen and aims to break black's pawn structure before the queens are off.